Are your credit cards maxed out? Just making the minimum payments or even behind on your bills? How much longer must you struggle with your debt? Call us now and end your sleepless nights worrying about money.
Now, if only everything in life was that easy. So for today's episode, I'd like to talk about some strategies for paying off your consumer debt. These can be your credit cards, unsecured line of credit, it could be a HELOC, car loan, pretty much any debt that isn't a mortgage. According to data from the International Monetary Fund, Canada has one of the highest household debt to GDP ratios in the world. As a country, we've been consistently in the top 5 in this metric for several years now. One of the biggest drivers in the explosion of household debt is due to the rising property and housing costs over the last decade, which has caused families to borrow more from the bank in order to afford a place to live and buy a place. And this is all happening while wages have remained pretty stagnant over the last decade as well. There hasn't been any significant increases in the wages, at least certainly not to the same percentage level as the increase in property prices. So using a recent example from StatsCan, the median household income in 2018 was $61,400, which was virtually unchanged from 2017. The increase was only 0.8%. Meanwhile, the price of housing across Canada as an average was up around 10 to 15%. And of course, it was significantly higher for the hotter markets, such as the Greater Vancouver area and the Greater Toronto area. Now, of course, this episode isn't about mortgages or real estate, but I needed to paint the background that higher payments due to mortgages and housing costs mean less disposable income as wages stay flat. And what this means is there's going to be more consumer debt that's going to be accrued and racking up as, people don't want to change their lifestyle. So they will go away on vacation and put that vacation on a credit card, or they'll fund their home renovation on their home equity line of credit without a plan to repay the amount. So if your spending has been out of control and you've racked up a bunch of debt, I'm here to share with you some tips on how to minimize your interest on your road to being debt-free. So the first step is actually the hardest part, and that's to realize that you have a debt and spending problem. And you probably need to make some lifestyle changes, such as being more minimalistic, stop spending money on crap that you don't need, and just stop spending money altogether. And if you do need to spend for necessities, try to use a debit card or cash so you can't overspend the amount of money that's in your bank. It's just too easy to spend money on credit as well, just swiping your card and not realizing how much money you've actually spent until the bill comes in and you're just shocked. Now you may be wondering, hey, what if I just swipe the bare necessities on a credit card? I'll be able to get some rewards that way. Well, that just kind of triggers, the slippery slope that you'll get back into the habit of spending, frivolously on other things on your credit card in the future. The second step is to make an inventory of all your debt, including the balances and the interest on each. So I've got an example here where I have 5 debt sources with my balances and the interest rate. We see here that my credit cards have the highest interest rate while my HELOC has the lowest. Making an inventory helps you form your strategy of attacking the debt in order to minimize interest and lets you know what you're up against. So now that you have your inventory list of debts, including the balances and interest on each, before we do anything further, we should see if we have any available credit left on our lower interest facilities, such as home equity line of credit, because we should be using that to pay off the higher interest stuff, such as credit cards. Because by doing that, you could save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So for example, if you had some credit cards that had a balance of $10,000 and accrued interest at 20% per year, you should see if you have any available space left in your home equity line of credit to borrow that money and pay off the credit cards. And if you don't have a home equity line of credit or you don't qualify for one, then you should go and ask your bank if you can get a consolidation loan at a lower rate compared to your credit cards to pay off the credit cards first. Now, once you've exhausted all the available space that you have left on your low interest rate debt to throw at the high interest rate credit cards, be sure to make the maximum amount of payment that you can afford on your credit cards. And once your credit cards are paid off, then move on to the next highest interest rate debt and keep going down until you hit the lowest interest rate debt. By doing this, you'll minimize the interest that you'll have to pay overall. Now, there's also another strategy for debt repayment that's out there, and it's called the debt snowball method. And the premise behind this is to pay off the debt with the lowest balances and then move your way towards debt with the highest balances. And the thinking behind that is to give you a small motivational win once you paid off a debt balance, and it just helps you keep focused and stay on track. So if you aren't too disciplined in your personal finances, then the debt snowball method could work for you, as long as there isn't too much variation in interest rates between the different forms of debt that you have. However, let's say if you had some credit cards with a really high balance and they had a really high interest rate, then this probably wouldn't work for you. And I would definitely recommend attacking the credit cards first, regardless of what balances you have on your other forms of debt. And there you go, that's it. That's how to pay off debt. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it's a lot easier said than done, and it's pretty difficult to execute. But you just gotta stay motivated, stick in there, grind it out, and think of the day that you'll be debt-free. It'll be a very liberating feeling. So thanks for watching my video. I hope you found it to be informative. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you wanna watch more personal finance videos from me in the future, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.